Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 271 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, starting with the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
Hey Seth, how's it going?
Whew, it has been the craziest spoiler weekend, I think, ever. Like, seriously, I've been covering spoilers for a long time now, and I don't know if I remember a spoiler 3-day period that was as crazy as the last few days. But we'll get into that in a minute. Before we do, we have another co-host in Krim, probably better known as the Asian Avenger. How's it going today, Krim?
Morning, Seth. Pretty excited. As you said, lots of Ikoria and cool things to talk about.
Yeah, and that's going to be our plan for today. We have somehow, since our last podcast, almost 2 full sets spoiled with Ikoria and also Commander 2020. Technically, Ikoria goes for a few more days still, but we got a big chunk of the set already. So we are going to dedicate basically the entire cast to talking about new Magic cards, new mechanics, new sets, and I'm super hyped for it. But before we get into that, a reminder that our show today is brought to you by spikesacademy.com, and they recently launched a new control course with Corey Burkhart. So if you like to make your opponent's lives miserable with counter spells and card advantage, this is a perfect course for you. Check now spikesacademy.com and learn from the best players in the entire world. So thank you so much to Spikes Academy for supporting the show today, and let's talk some new Magic cards. Let's start with Ikoria, since that's the standard set. So Richard, why don't you guide us through our Ikoria discussion?
All right. So Ikoria previews, C20 previews, they're actually 2 different sets. So all cards in Ikoria are standard legal. All cards from C20, so there's actually like a C20 in the name, are not standard legal. It's causing a lot of confusion because Wizards is releasing both sets at the same time.
I don't actually think that's 100% correct.
Wait, what?
There are some C20 cards that have the Ikoria set symbol that are legal and standard.
Yeah, that's right. But they're also printed in Ikoria. So there are cards. Okay, so C20 has cards that are specifically made for C20, but there are also some Ikoria cards in C20. And then the cards in C20 with the Ikoria set symbol are legal in Ikoria. Makes sense?
It's very, sort of. And we didn't even get through the 20 different printings of each card.
Okay. So let's get some administrative stuff out of the way. Ikoria coming April 16th to Arena. April 17th to Asia, May 15th, rest of the world. So for those of you in North America and Europe, May 15th. And stores are prohibited from selling the cards early, if they somehow have them. So heads up on the timing due to the global pandemic. But on to Ikoria. So Wizards released basically like most of the cards, but what we got is Godzilla. Yes, we did it. I've been calling for promos. They have teamed up with Toho, and there are Godzilla promos in the set. So basically, this is how it works. You have cards from the normal boosters. Then you have the collector boosters. In the collector boosters, you have extended art cards. And then for certain cards, you have a special showcase version. And then, so that has like a graphic, kind of graphic art, kind of like comic book style. And then you have the Godzilla promo, which has a different name, but functionally is the same name as the card in the set. You following me? So for example, Godzilla, let me pull up Godzilla here. Godzilla King of Monsters is the first card they spoiled. Let me read it off for you. It's the buy a box promo for Ikoria. So Godzilla, King of Monsters. And then its magic name is Zalartha Strength Incarnate. So when you open a booster pack, which you won't because it's a buy a box promo, but that's like its normal magic name. Okay. 3 red and a green, 7/3 legendary creature dinosaur, trample. Lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. And the art is like literal Godzilla, like shooting a beam out, destroying cities.
Like good old Godzilla.
Like actual Godzilla, guys.
Yep.
What do you guys think?
What is this?
What do you think of this? What do you think? It sounds like you guys both like the Godzilla promos. I'm gonna be the wet blanket. I don't really like them.
Did you watch Godzilla as a kid?
I love the comic book showcase cards. I think those are awesome. I'm not super comfortable with black border crossovers, honestly. It's not Godzilla in specific. It's silver border cards. Yeah, print all of My Little Pony cards you want. Go for it. Black border cards with 2 names and other properties, IPs in standard. Maybe I'm just looking at it the wrong way, but for me it feels weird personally.
So for you can play the regular boring standard set version. For me, I can feel like Godzilla, Mothra, like throw them down and like live out my childhood memories. But yeah, I love it. I love it. And I like how to appease, the diehard Magic fans, they kept like a Magic name, right? So that if you don't want to like break from the from the fantasy world, right? You're like, oh, what is Godzilla doing with Vivian, right? You can just play like the Magic card. But I do like the crossover IP and the fact that it's optional. The 2 names is weird because I know it's going to cause so much confusion with new players. And they're like, what? I have 4 Godzillas and 4 Zilarthas in my deck, right? Like, what's wrong with this, right?
Yeah, that is one of my concerns too, is I think that part is a little awkward.
I'm also, I'm with Richard. I mean, the fact that you have the separate names makes it work. And I mean, let's be honest here. We already like altered cards and stuff like that. Like, oh, look, I altered, I don't know, a Wolverine onto this card. Okay, cool. But it's not, but like that's how I feel about this. Godzilla, it's like, wow, I would have probably gotten an alter for Godzilla on this monster set anyway, so this is great. And on top of that, I mean, the only thing that I had an issue with was that Ghidorah was not Grixis, but I mean, okay, that's fine. Because I feel like Ghidorah, should have been Grixis. Other than that, all of the sweet promos, I do really like the showcase arts too, because it has that classic, kind of like monster movie poster vibe. So I am also into that.
Yeah. No, Seth, you're still. Wait. Did you watch Godzilla as a kid?
Is there? I mean, I've seen Godzilla before. I wasn't like a huge Godzilla fan or anything, but is there any slippery slope argument here? Are we heading towards
slope?
Like, an equipment that's a can of Mountain Dew, and Pepsi paid Wizards like $1 million to make a Mountain Dew equipment? Like, is that where we're going? Is that the path that we're heading down with these promos?
Yo, a Mountain Dew cannon would be sweet.
we return to Kaladesh, and there's like Gundam there. I don't know. I'm ready for this.
Yes.
I mean, I see where they're going, and we're gonna see based on how well these cards sell. And now is the perfect time. If you like Godzilla, you can pick up a collector's booster box, support your LGS, and support Godzilla. If you don't buy it, right? Just buy the normal standard version, and then Wizards will see that, hey, nobody bought collector's boosters. Maybe Godzilla's not the right way to go. So you just vote with your wallet, right?
I mean, but like there's no way it doesn't do like relatively well. It's so sweet. I don't know. I mean, like this also like means that we could potentially have other things down the line, which makes me really excited. Like I think I'd mentioned this to Seth somewhere, I think on Twitter, like, dude, a Marvel, Magic crossover somewhere down the line that has me like drooling over the ideas and potential. Like we could actually have a Doctor Strange on a card.
Yeah, I do agree with Seth though. I hope they keep it. So this was perfect, right? Like the set is giant monsters, and what's a better giant monster than Godzilla, right? And I'm ready for Godzilla to kill like Eldrazi, but I don't want them to start throwing like Mountain Dew or 5-hour energy into my Magic. Okay. Like I equip the 5-hour energy. I don't want to see that.
5-hour energy in Mountain Dew.
So hopefully they don't go there. All right.
I mean,
all right.
I don't want to see it now.
We're getting crazy over Godzilla here. We have so much to get through. We have 2 weeks, like basically 2 sets of spoilers to cover in 1 hour. So let's move on to mechanics and complexity. Seth already hinted at. You ready for this? There's a new mechanic called mutate. Okay, now I cannot sum it up in 5 seconds, but basically the creatures have mutate abilities, and when you cast them for their mutate ability, you take like the target creature and the mutate card and you combine them. So you get to choose whether the mutate card goes on top or on the bottom, and then the card on top will dictate the power and toughness, and then you take all the abilities of all cards in the mutate pile and combine them all. So it's like this weird enchantment. And then on Reddit, there's currently like this huge post of like all the asterisks of what happens to this like monstrous creature when stuff happens. Like it bounces into the command zone, it goes to your hand, it phases out, it flips, unflips, it's a token, it populates, blah, blah, blah. Lots of rules, but basically you mash creatures together. The whole creature, if it gets Doombladed, it all dies. If your target creature gets killed as your mutating creature enters the battlefield as a real creature. And then they also have triggers. So there are cards that say when this creature mutates, do X. So that will trigger when you do the mutate.
Even if the original host target is removed, right?
No.
So the trade-off is like if you get something removed in response, you like the mutate trigger gets removed. But if you wait for it to resolve, they get the mutate trigger, but then you can like 2-for-1 them by destroying it. So the mutate trigger kind of like works around the 2-for-1. It's like bestow, but kind of not bestow. Like, I don't know. This is so complicated.
Bestow is probably the closest comparison. Like a weird take on bestow. Basically, you're just mashing the text boxes of creatures together, but also make yourself potentially susceptible to getting like X for 1. I want to know what you think of the power level of this mechanic.
All right,
like
let me give you guys an example card. Okay. Nethroi, Apex of Death, 2 white, black, green. So 5 CMC, 5/5. Its mutate cost is 4 hybrid white, green, black, black. So 7, Death Touch Lifelink. Whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
I wonder how many no, there aren't any non-blue clones that I can think of. That's so good. I think that's really good.
Like you can like, so basically it's a 5 mana 5/5 Death Touch Lifelink, right? You can kind of like haste it onto an existing creature, right? By mutating it. Like, so if you mutate like a 1/1, it becomes like a 5/5 with Death Touch Lifelink. And then when you mutate, you get to basically reanimate a bunch of creatures from the graveyard.
You choose which half goes to the top of the card and which half goes to the bottom, right?
Correct.
So for some odd reason, if I wanted to stay a 1/1, I could choose the 1/1 as the bottom half, right?
Right. So if you mutate Questing Beast,
yes, that's where everybody's mind goes.
Or something with like, no, you want something with first strike, right? So that the result is first strike, Death Touch, Lifelink, or double strike, something like that. And then you want to mutate, if it's bigger, you would take the bigger, like if you mutate a Galta, then you'd have a 12/12 Lifelink Death Toucher. If you mutate, say, a 1/1 token, you can take the Nethroi power and toughness, so it'd be a 5/5 Death Touch Lifelink.
Sweet. That's so sweet.
Okay, the thing I like about the mutate cards is if you just read them, almost every single one is on curve or above the curve, just as a normal creature. Like, every single one. That was the thing that stuck out to me the most, is I feel like Wizards knew that mutating is something you want to do only in specific circumstances. So I feel like you play these cards and you mostly play them as normal creatures to not set yourself up for getting, X for 1, but then you kind of like pick and choose your spots to mutate them. Like, is that how you think these are going to play out? Or do you think this is really like all about getting 20 creatures stacked on top of each other and trying to build the craziest monster possible? And that's like the main play pattern of these cards.
Are you playing Bogles? I would stack 30 of them on a hexproof creature, right?
Yeah.
But in general, no, right? Because you're going to get like 1,000,000 for 1, right? If you try to stack them all on one creature. But you could for like a hasty effect or something like that. Or if you have protection, then I could see you stacking them all on and just one-shotting someone.
Although some of these things, like, since they're most of these like legendaries are like all 3 colors, I wonder if sometimes like some people are going to try to stack it onto a creature with protection from that color. Does that?
I think that's an illegal target.
Yeah, that'll be a legal target, right? Like, so like, that's what I'm worried about. Like, ooh, I do like Vadrock too. Like, I think that like a lot of these are just like good, I think on their own, like Seth had mentioned for their own stats, but on top of that, if you do actually get to mutate, that's pretty solid, right? Like, that's just ridiculous value.
Yeah, I think Vadrock is probably the best one because it has aggressive costs. So its cost is blue, red, white, 3/3. Flying first strike. When this creature mutates, you may cast target non-creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Its mutate cost is 4. So basically a Snapcaster Mage on mutate, and then a 3 mana 3/3 flying first strike. Like almost Mantis Rider without the haste.
I mean, I'll take that, even though like it's like super Snapcaster, right? Because this can cast a non-creature permanent or a non-creature thing. So like it can even get my planeswalkers back. It can get, you know, like all
you can Teferi minus bounce this Vadrock and then do it again, right?
Yeah. What were we missing in our current standard format? More 3 mana planeswalkers. Like that, I think that was the problem with standard, is we just didn't have enough Teferis and Narsets entering the battlefield.
I mean, hey, at least you know you can't snap back like a Nissa or something like that. So
But really though, like if you look at all the mythic mutators and even the rare ones, like Aluna, 5 mana 6/6 flying trample. Nethro we talked about is like a ground Baneslayer, 5 mana 5/5 death touch lifelink, Snapdax, 4 mana 3/5 double strike. Those are all decent stats on creatures. And even if you go down to rares, like Gemrazor is a 4 mana 4/4 reach trample that can also mutate for 3 and blow up an artifact and enchantment when it mutates. So I feel like Wizards costed all these in a way that you can definitely run them without building around them. Obviously you can build around them and play Boggles or hexproof creatures or whatever crappy tokens that you don't mind losing if you get 2 for 1. But I also think you can just play these as normal creatures and then pick and choose your spots when you want to mutate them. And they'll even be very good played that way, I think.
Yeah. Like, well, yeah, like, I mean, there's C-Dash or Octopus, which is pretty cheap. And then the fact that it mutates for 2 with Flash, like, I think that's pretty good. So yeah, there's just a lot here. There's a lot in this set. There's so many keywords. There's so much text.
All right. So next up, we have a new object in Magic. We have ability counters. So now there are counters that give your creature vigilance, reach, trample, etc. And our example card is Vivian, Monster's Advocate. So another very strong green planeswalker, 5 CMC,
what we need,
3 starting loyalty. Let me get all the abilities here. I gotta get my magnifying glass because the text is super small, okay? You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. +1, create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Put your choice of a vigilance counter, a reach counter, or a trample counter on it. -2, when you cast your next creature spell this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
That's a lot. And I love all of it. I think this card's so good. Oh my god. All those counters though, that I do think that's interesting, the ability to put counters on creatures. What do you personally think about it? Because I think that's interesting, but at the same time,
something more to track. Like this is so far, everything in this set screams digital to me. Like I don't need to know how mutate works. Just let Arena figure it out, right? Like I don't need to keep track of like 4 different counters. Like Arena will do it all for me. But in paper, you know, I'm going to have a little piece of paper and write like vigilance, right? Reach, you know, it's like a big mess to take care of. But I do like the idea of like, hey, this is a death touch counter, right? Hey, this is a hexproof counter. This is an infect counter, which is strange, right? An infect counter. You mean a -1/-1 counter? No, an infect counter.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of counters. Like I see people already like making tokens for them. It's just like, it's starting to look like Pokemon, like the card game Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like how the mechanic will probably play, but I also am a little concerned about how it'll work in paper. It does seem really, it's funny to me that Wizards is so adamant about like, we can't put fetch lands in standard because shuffling, you know, that takes time. But then they're like, no, we're just going to make, you know, 12 different ability counters and make you scrawl out little scraps of paper every time you want to activate your planeswalker. That's not too clunky, but a fetch land shuffle, that's just cross the line. Vivian though, I think is good. My only question with Vivian is, there's a lot of really good green 5-drops. You already got Nissa. You already got Cavalier. Like, is this going to see immediate play, or is this like a wait until War of the Spark finally rotates and then Vivian will get the time to shine?
I think it could still get play in some some different decks, right? If Gruul becomes more of a prominent deck, I think you could play that there, right? I mean, I'd probably play that over Nissa.
Yeah, I think the smaller decks, right, where you don't want to double all your mana, but you do want to, you effectively do double your mana, right? With like small creatures with Herminus. But it's card advantage. Nissa does not provide any card advantage, right? If you slap down a Nissa, you get 3/3s every turn, but if you don't have the Krasis in hand, you're like, eh. But Vivian, you can cast creature spells off the top. So they have slightly different roles, although they do compete. Nissa's probably better given the current shells, but getting to like two creatures, like kind of like Coco decks, which we don't have Coco in standard, obviously, but where you can just cast a creature with utility, grab a second utility creature, and then just overwhelm your opponent like that. But I think Vivian's really strong.
The -2 is definitely really strong, and outside of standard, even potentially has combo potential, like whatever, cast your Kiki Jiki, get the Deceiver Exarch for free, stuff like that.
Yeah. And she can protect against flyers too. You can make your beast with reach. You can make your beast
block
with
questing
vigilance
with that token.
Oh, you can't. Yes.
Because that was my big thing, right? This was like when Ashiok Nightmare Muse came out. The only thing was like, I wish it could block questing beasts. So now you can.
I mean, if you're playing a Viving deck, you can probably block your opponent's questing beasts with your questing beasts.
but how many top deck wars come to that, right?
but maybe you've mutated it into Godzilla.
Oh,
my questing beast is better than your questing beast.
I know we didn't actually talk about Godzilla. It's a 7/7 trample for 5, and that's a buy a box promo. Like, isn't that a pretty absurd Magic card? I don't think we've ever seen that power and toughness on a 5-drop, especially with trample, without any drawback. It's just like, hey, here's a 7/7 trample for 5
I don't
mana.
think it's that. I mean, we had Galta, my friend. I think you have to use its ability, though. Like, your ball lightnings are suddenly disgustingly powerful, so it depends on how many of those are in standard. But I think 5 mana 7/7 trample, vanilla, that's like really bad Galta, right?
I mean, Galta you gotta build around a lot.
Yeah.
Though. Like, Galta is also 12 mana or whatever most of the, like, sometimes.
Yeah. But I think if you, I don't know, how many ball lightning creatures do we have? Like Yargle.
Does it even do anything with ball light? Oh, I see. You just mean like high, I see. Yeah. Like high power, low toughness creatures. Yeah, maybe it's Yargle.
Yeah, I mean, I will take a 3-drop 6/6 haste.
Well, I was thinking like ball lightning sacrifice themselves. Anyway.
So
you're right,
literal
right.
ball
lightning doesn't.
You need something
actually,
that doesn't sack itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to stick around, preferably.
I mean, this set's got like an 11/11 at uncommon, right? Or something ridiculous like that.
Oh, we have lots. We have a card that gives you +20/+20. It is like Timmy's
Aura swap that.
Timmy's dream here, and like I'm ready to, mutate my infect hexproof double striking creature together. Like it's all happening. All right,
we have another mechanic though.
Last mechanic. We have companion. So I heard you guys like commander, so we're bringing commander to all of our constructed formats. So with companion, there's a deck building restriction. And if you meet that deck building restriction, you can start the game with this card outside of your deck in this extra zone that you can cast once at any time, kind of like a commander. So the example here is Lutri the Spell Chaser. 1 hybrid blue-red, hybrid blue-red. So 3 CMC, 3/2, Elemental Otter. Companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. Flash. When Lutri, the Spell Chaser, enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Love it.
Your deck. So this sits in your sideboard in Constructed. You can cast it at any time if you meet the companion requirements of your deck. And then in Commander, yes, it takes up a sideboard slot. In Commander, Lutri is actually just straight up banned. But if Lutri was not banned, it would be the 101st card in your deck. So you would still have a 100 card deck, and then Lutri would sit outside of it. So you would have 101 cards. But the rules committee has preemptively banned Lutri because all commander decks automatically meet the companion requirement for this card.
It's like a free card.
It's like a free card. What do you think of this new mechanic? Like a commander-esque card for constructed.
I don't like that it takes a sideboard slot, but
you have an effective 8-card starting hand, right? That you get to choose, right? The extra card.
But I don't know. I like the fact that it is still sideboard slots. The farther back we go, like in older formats, the more relevant they are. So
well,
I don't know.
Also, like, the harder it is to play 100-card singleton and win a game if you're playing older format. Like, I think we're kind of bearing the lead here. That if you look at these restrictions, it's like everything in your deck costs 3 or more mana. Everything shares a card type. Everything is even or odd converted mana cost. The restrictions are really severe, and your reward is you get a random, like, sort of okay mid-rangey creature. Like that's what you're getting. I think that's my concern with this mechanic.
The only one that I could see actually really getting played would be Lutri out of all of them. I mean, Gyruda or whatever is a demon kraken, so obviously I think that one's really cool. But like, I don't know, like in competitive play, I think that Lutri is the most likely to get played.
Lutri is the most likely not to get played. You have to play a singleton deck in standard? Are you crazy?
I did that in standard already. I did Esper Solar Flare in M12, and all I did was
so
play...
hard. I think Umori is probably playable somewhere. Right?
What's
where
the blue-green
you
one?
like if you play like Affinity or something.
I think Karuga is the
Yeah,
one
there
that
you go,
is
that
most
one.
likely to see play, just because it's a free roll essentially in Fire's decks. Like Fire's decks, I was actually looking at their decks. They maybe have a couple of Ether Gusts in the main deck, depending on like the metagame. Other than that, their deck naturally costs 3 or more every single card. So you just can like free roll this in your sideboard if you're playing Fires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fires.
I mean, it takes a sideboard slot, but almost free roll. But what do you guys think about the complexity of this now? This reminds me of the Hearthstone mechanic, right? Where you have the legendaries that have like a deck restriction. Now you have a further deck restriction on your deck.
This is another mechanic that makes a ton of sense in digital, but I'm a little, it does add a lot more complexity to paper, especially for new players, kind of like the other mechanics we were talking about. I do feel like these cards are mostly not powerful enough to make the deck building restriction worth it, which is kind of disappointing. Like, I like these cards from an against odds perspective. I think it's going to be really fun to like take this deck building challenge, but from the like, I'm going to win a GP perspective or whatever, 5-0 a league or whatever, I don't think any of them are of a power level where it's actually worth warping your deck to try to get a single extra card in your sideboard.
So far, I pretty much am right there with that. Like, I think the effects aren't worth the payoff. But like they are, I do like it from a deck building perspective. I think that's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun. And I mean, like if we ignore the fact of digital, paper, all that, I think it is very fun.
Yeah. I think the payoff isn't strong enough, but I think if this proves successful, we'll get more competitively costed cards.
And it's probably true that Wizards went a little conservative, because if you did print one of these that was better than you thought, it would almost assuredly be banned, because it's starting in your opening hand essentially every game. So if you printed one that actually was really powerful, you have all other kinds of problems to deal with. So it's probably best to like aim low with the first run of cards like this, and then kind of adjust from there moving forward.
It's the coin you've always wanted, Richard.
This is not the coin. This is not the coin.
If they would have made it better, it would have totally been a coin, right?
Because the person going first can also get this, right? It's not the coin at all. But I'm ready to see, like, if you have 20 or more cards of the same creature type, that's the companion, and then it's just like a lord that like lets you draw every time you cast a card of that creature type or something. Like, I'm ready for that. Or like no creatures in your deck, or no non-creatures in your deck, something like that. Those are like actual restrictions that people will play with. So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, I like the evens and odds one, but like still,
it's almost impossible. Your mana curve is so bad if you do that, right? Like,
they need to make one where you can only play 6 drops for Tomer. If every card in your deck has a converted mana cost of 6.
All right, let's talk about some just random cards that we like from the set. Let's talk about a new planeswalker. So we have a new planeswalker, Luca, Copper Coat Outcast. 3 red, 5 starting loyalty. +1, exile the top 3 cards of your library. Creature cards exiled this way gain. You may cast this card from exile as long as you control a Luca planeswalker. -2, exile target creature you control, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with higher converted mana cost. Put that card onto the library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Or put that card on the battlefield, sorry. -7, each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent.
I mean, I love the artwork. He's standing by a gigantic tiger, so that's pretty cool. And I think the card itself, I like that +1, but I wish it made it so that you could cast it with any Luca instead of like, because I think it's going to be separate instances, right? Like Ashiok.
No, it's as long as you control a Luca planeswalker.
A Luca planeswalker?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can use the planeswalker deck version if you want. Like, I don't know.
In that case, I think this card is pretty sweet. But once again, like, what deck is going to play it? That's the biggest thing. Is any of the current
a combo
decks,
deck.
a combo deck?
I think that's where I come down on Luca. I think you play this like polymorph, basically, is how I view it. Like, if you play a deck where you have, let's say, 12 1-mana mana dorks, this would be Pioneer Modern or something, and then your only other creature is Emrakul. Whenever you -2, you know you're going to hit Emrakul, because that's the only higher CMC creature. Same with like tokens, and then Emrakul or whatever finisher you want. So that's what I see this. I'm not like super hyped about plussing to maybe draw some creature cards, but I think like as a planeswalking polymorph, it could actually be pretty powerful.
It like definitely if you're using it as a polymorph thing, that's going to be a lot of fun. And because, you know, I do love the idea of a polymorph on a planeswalker, but I'm more so just, I guess, looking at the value side of it.
Yeah, value side is a bit weak, right? Because it's like a 5. Like, compare Luca to Vivian for value, right? Like, I guess you get 3 cards for every +1 activation.
Well, but they got to be creatures, so you're probably only getting like
up to
1.5. Yeah, it's a little.
But
risky.
it's 5 CMC, doesn't protect itself in any way. I guess you can minus to protect itself. But yeah.
Like, I'm thinking of like in a situation where I don't know. I think Luca is nice though because of the starting 5 loyalty and whatnot, and the looking at top 3 could be relevant depending on what kind of red mid-range decks there are, right? And if it plays green or not in standard.
What about like the Rakdos sack decks? Because the -2 says creature you control, so you can like claim the firstborn and then -2 away they claim the firstborn creature into whatever your Kroxa or Korvald or something.
It has to be greater than the creature, right? That is exiled. So, right? To polymorph. So that means like, if you're like the whole Rakdos sack deck, I think tops out at 3 mana. So you have to be stealing small creatures, right?
I guess that's true.
You're just like, cool. All right. I know I failed to find.
All right. Next up, Luminous Broodmoth. 2 white. 3/4 flying.
Yeah.
Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it.
His card is like why like Solemnity is being bought out right now, right? Because like the whole game plan is to play this Solemnity and I don't know anything of your choice, like either I guess like what Kroxa or Uro, and then draw your whole deck, or just keep burning your opponent out.
Yep.
Yeah.
With Solemnity, like.
Yeah, you can also go with like Altar of Dementia to just keep sacking and mill your opponent out. So there's a bunch of like shenanigans if you can remove the counter. And it's just like a good creature. Like a 3/4 flyer for 4 that even just like fairly protects your creatures from removal and board wipes. That seems pretty busted. The creatures even get better. They come back into play with flying when they didn't have flying before. Just like from combos to fair things, everything about this card seems really powerful to me.
Yeah, it's not legendary either, so I'm also a fan of that. But yeah, like this card seems very good. I love this. I mean, I'm definitely going to be trying a Kroxa variant, so like I want to do that in like Pioneer. That's going to be so much fun.
It's really good. And people will still complain that white is bad. Just wait. Just wait.
Well,
just wait.
You know, we don't know if white is getting there yet, but yeah, it's definitely a very good card.
There has to be a card that just makes all your stuff lose flying. Oh, there is.
How about
There
you just
is.
don't play flying creatures? It's
The,
very easy.
Well, no, but then you protect
Theros
Malthra
thing.
as well, because it doesn't say other
Oh.
creatures.
Yeah,
Mystic Decree. Anyone know what Mystic Decree does, or even what set it's from?
Nope.
Not what set it's from.
We're going back to Homelands.
Oh, this gotta be good.
Homelands, 4 mana blue enchant world. All creatures lose flying and island walk.
World.
Got him.
Also casually dunk on merfolk.
Oh, why hasn't that been bought out yet?
All right. Next up, we have the Mythos cycle. So, Mythos of Snap decks. 2 white sorcery. Each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among non-land permanents they control, then sacrifices the rest. If black and red was spent to cast the spell, you choose the permanents for each player instead.
I love this. This is like a super duper tragic arrogance. I think this is such a cool card. And like in standard, tragic arrogance already got played a whole lot. So this is, I think this is really good. I think this is really good. Cause you're probably like, I mean, we'll see how much Mardu is going to be happening, but I think this card is really good.
So here's my concern, and that was my first thought too. Tragic Arrogance was really good when it was in standard. This should be really good when it's in standard. But then when I thought about how standard decks work and like how a lot of decks are built around Fires of Invention. And if I have just Fires of Invention, I'm winning the game. Or Wilderness Reclamation. If I have just that, I'm winning the game. I wonder if Magic has shifted so much since Magic Origins that this effect isn't as good as it used to be. Because I feel like I'm going to cast this and be like, all right, I'm going to get rid of everything, but you still have your Fires of Invention. So you just untap and play all your stuff and kill me. Or Wilderness Reclamation, you Expansion Explosion me. Do you think there's any chance that Magic has just shifted in a way where this isn't as good as it used to be? The effect in general, like the card is obviously a better version of Tragic Arrogance, but is there any concern about that aspect of it?
I definitely see where you're coming from because like the decks that are in standard right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like Old Theros where there's tons of enchantment creatures running around. Like where you could kind of force them to pick this as the enchantment and this as the creature. Other than that, I do see where you come from though. Yeah. Like it is possible that just this effect may not be great for standard, but I do think maybe in other formats, like maybe Commander, things like that, I think this could be really good.
And the meta could definitely shift. Just because I don't like how it lines up with our current top decks in the meta necessarily, that doesn't mean the meta won't shift. And I think worst case, it's a card that's going to get certain decks really hard. Like, so worst case, it's probably a really good sideboard card at a minimum.
I mean, the one that I think is the best so far is the removal spell, the Mythos of Nethroi, which is 3 mana, destroy target non-land permanent if it's a creature or if green and white was spent to cast this spell. Like, I think that one's really good.
Yeah, I think that one was also, if I was just going to pick the one that sees the most play, it's probably that one, because that's just like a evergreen, really good removal spell.
The wording on it is a little bit weird, though. Does it, it hurt my head a little bit reading that card.
It's basically a murder that's only 1 black. So I don't think we've ever had that before, right? Usually murder effects are black something. And then if you pay exactly Abzan colors, you can kill any non-land permanent. And this is instant speed.
Yeah.
The thing that is awkward about the wording is, I believe, kind of like Pyroblast in Legacy, I believe you can target things that aren't legal. Like, you could play black and target a Planeswalker, and then that's a legal target, but then just nothing happens.
Nice.
So, hopefully
like how you
Arena Auto Tapper is up to the challenge of this card.
That's the first thing I'm worried about. Auto Tapper. I'm really gonna need you to come through for me on this, because it already messes up on what's the one from Eldraine, Rampant or whatever, the one where if it's like, if 3 green mana was spent on this, do this.
Yeah. Oh.
All right. So, we're going long, so let's move on to Commander 2020, which is also being revealed, today, actually. By the end of today, all deck lists will be revealed. 71 new cards in the set. So they contain, reprints, Commander 20 cards, new Commander 20 cards, and then also Ikoria cards. So, first up, let's talk about some of the new card cycles or mechanics. So we have a free spell cycle if you control your commander. and I think the best one by far is Fierce Guardianship. 2 in a blue instant. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell.
Heck yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Why is this a card?
That is, yeah, pretty. It's like the commander version of Force Negation, basically, but probably just but straight up better than Force Negation if you have your commander.
I'm playing that in my Amanatu deck. That card is so good. Oh my god.
I think just like every blue deck will play this. Like, why wouldn't you play this in your blue deck for the most part? But really, I think this entire cycle is really good. The blue one is the best of the bunch, but what's the black one? Exiles a creature. Red one changes the target of a spell. Green one is like a super fog. And then the white one, what does the white one do?
White one was indestructible
Gain 5
for
life.
creatures.
Oh, yeah.
Gain 5 life.
Gain 5 life. Got him. But all of these seem really playable to me. Like, don't they all seem like they're worth considering for a decent number of decks?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you that it's like the humans commander one. Like, I would definitely be playing that indestructible one there. Right? Like that would be amazing. I can tap out. Cause like one of the biggest fears that I have when I cast my commander is like, oh, well, I'm tapped out. So what's going to happen if I need to hold up, I don't know, something. But now, thanks to these spells, I can definitely tap out and play my commander, not actually be afraid to play it.
Yeah, I feel these are too oppressive. I feel at least Force Negation, like you're down a card, it costs you something. This literally costs you nothing to protect your commander. A lot of decks hinge around their commander, and like Krim said, you can't just like turn 3, tap out, play your commander, and might get murdered immediately. So you gotta like kind of sandbag it, wait, have protection up. This lets you just do it for free. So I don't know how I feel about that. Like too many free spells.
I mean, free spells are always good. So we'll have to see with that. But I mean,
what if I had a free creature, Krim? Like,
oh no! I mean, like they're almost too good.
They're always powerful,
usually,
yeah.
They're usually too good. But I do want to see how it plays out. It's because it is just if it were like a counter spell, like straight up just counter anything, that's pretty gross, right? But it is a negate, so I don't know. We'll see how much that matters. Because in EDH, it's still pretty hard to keep, I don't know, like let's say planeswalkers around or something like that. But I do like this in an aggressive shell, like the indestructible one, to like protect my creatures and whatnot. And I don't know. It seems like there's a lot worse going on in Commander, so a free spell isn't that bad.
I think the question's going to be is how expensive do you think these cards are? I think that's my big question. Like, how expensive is Teferi's protection now? I assume this is going to be like Teferi's protection
$30
level playable. Because we already have free spells. We got Force of Will, we got Force of Negation, we have a bunch of other lesser ones. So having a free counter spell doesn't scare me. I would like this to be a more budget-friendly option. If this is like a way that more people can access free counter spells, maybe that is at least some upside if you can't afford $100 Force of Wills or whatever Force of Negation's at now.
Nah, this is going to be expensive.
You think so?
Everyone's going to play. Like, why would you not play this in your blue deck?
Yeah.
You have to literally play a Seth deck where your commander is irrelevant.
I know, that's my biggest problem with
your
these.
Commander, right?
I get punished so hard by these because everyone else plays their commander. I don't. So these just do nothing for me, even though they're good.
Plus, 3 mana negate is not that bad. Like, it's not like you're paying like 5 mana for like a counter spell. It's like it's just a 3 mana negate, right? Like the cost for not having your commander is not horrendous either.
I mean, that's Force of Negation. That's the same. And people hardcast Force of Negation against me all the time in Modern. So I don't think 3 mana is like a deal breaker.
All right. Also announced our new partner pairs. So we have new partner pairs for every single deck. I couldn't figure out which ones were good. So I chose this one. Is this good? It was a green one. So Yannick Scavenging Sentinel. 2 green and a white 3/3 legendary creature Hyena Beast. So Hyena Tribal online. Partner with Nakira Lair Scavenger Vigilance. When Yannick enters the battlefield, exile another creature you control until Yannick leaves the battlefield. When you do, distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures, where X is the exiled creature's power. And then Nikara, 2 black, 2/2, legendary creature, human cleric, menace. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you draw a card and you lose 1 life.
I actually think that's the best partner pair. So I think you nailed it with this selection. I think that is the one that I'm actually like kind of interested in playing. It's a fun like Abzan +1/+1 counters theme. There is a lot of support for that, and this is a cool way to take advantage of it. It draws you cards, which is nice. So I really like that partner pair. I think in general, I don't know. I came away with the impression that most of the partner pairs are kind of meh. Partners are so weird because we went from the original ones that could partner with any partner, and they just absolutely were like busted and the best things going in the format. And now we have like these specific partner pairs. Have any of those even been like good? I hardly ever see those partner pairs see play. We had them in like Battle Bond, various other sets, and just no one actually plays them. So it feels like, I don't know, the ones that have to pair with one specific other card haven't been good enough. The ones that pair with anything are too good. I don't know. Do you like any of the other ones outside of Yannick and Ikoria?
I love the shark, the flying shark. I'm sorry. Like, I think it's more of just because it's a flying shark. You're riding a flying shark. I don't care what you do. I think that's enough of a reason for me to play it. Like that and the Sylvar and Trin. I love that too. I mean, you're feeding humans to your nightmare cat and it's growing and whatnot, or getting indestructible. I'm a fan of those, but I think that's more so because the art and the flavor behind it and the how fun the cards are. But if you're talking about like playability, like you had mentioned, it does require me to partner with some of these have effects though that just are good on their own though, right? Like I think are fun to play on their own. But like, yeah, like I do think that they are medium. I think they're medium. I'm not like entirely sold that they're going to be like awful. But I know they're not amazing. I know it's like, oh, they're going to break the format, but I do think they're fun. And I think that's the coolest thing about most of the partners so far.
And I will say, I do like the flavor. Like, a lot of them have really cool flavor. It's a lot of, like, human-animal pairs, which is really cool. Like, you have, like, human and cat, human and dog, human and shark, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's a shark bird. Come on.
Yeah, flying shark.
It's equally bird, okay?
The flavor is really good, but I think the power level is fairly low.
Simic the set, pretty much.
All right. We have reprints. So Arcane Signet coming back. Sol Ring, Commander Sphere, Command Tower. Those are expected. But Arcane Signet being reprinted with Commander 2020. And then we have the face cards of the set.
Yes.
If I could find them.
Which,
so
by the way,
causing all cycling spikes.
Oh yeah.
We have Gavin. Oh wait, I lost my window. Okay, I got it again. We have Gavi, Nest Warden, 2 blue, red, white, so 5 CMC, 2/5, legendary creature, human shaman. You may pay 0 rather than pay the cycling cost of the first card you cycle each turn. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 red and white dinosaur cat creature token.
It's a good one.
I think the cycling
deck.
commander is really good. I mean, we've all had our mind go there, but Decree of Annihilation and whatnot, like with this card. But like, legitimately, it is a really sweet commander.
Yeah, I think this is my favorite of the face commanders, and I think it might be the most powerful of the 5 face commanders too. And we didn't have a cycling legend before, so this opens up like kind of a new archetype. You could obviously play a cycling deck with whatever random commander you wanted, but we haven't had a legend that specifically referred to cycling. So I think it's a really cool new addition to Commander.
My favorite is still yet to be named.
Yeah. And in MTG Finance news, Fluctuator was bought out and then it was reprinted later in the set. So
they did it.
Yeah. Be careful when you see previews of cards. All right. Next up, Jarina Kudro, 1 red, white, black, so 4 CMC Mardu, 3/3, legendary creature, human soldier. When Jarina enters a battlefield, create a 1/1 human soldier token for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Other humans you control get +2/+0.
This is my favorite one. I don't have a Mardu deck yet, but now I will. Like this is just, I like that it rewards me for casting my commander, even if it's, like, you may not think it's much because you're just getting 1 human each time you cast it, but I don't know, like the Anthem effect is +2/+0, and you're constantly getting rewarded for casting your Jurina. And then on top of that, with now my new free spells, I can tap out for this and then give my creatures indestructible if you try to board wipe.
This is actually my least favorite. I don't want to cast my commander. I don't care about random like aggro tribal decks. Like this one's not for me.
Yeah, I love this one because it just does just that. It rewards you for casting my commander, and the Anthem effect's sweet.
It's six power, right? For 4 mana, and then if you have to recast it, you get 9 power, and a +2/+0 is no joke. That's like a pretty sizable pump.
It's a real Anthem.
Your human tokens.
Yeah, and then if you're in the colors where you have like fervor, you can give your stuff haste, all this other stuff. Like you're not. It's very possible that this could just be really aggressive.
All right, next up, we have Calamax the Stormrise. 1 green, blue, red, 4/4, legendary creature, elemental dinosaur. Whenever you cast your first instant spell each turn, if Calamax is tapped, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Whenever you copy an instant spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Calamax.
Just think of how many card draw spells I can double up with this.
Oh, is this the one now? This is...
This is the best commander because it forces Seth to attack. You see, it forces Seth to progress the game to copy.
You play twiddle. You play twiddles, vehicles, things like that.
Oh, man.
All right. Next up, we have Cathril X Aspect Warper, 2 white, black, green, 3/3, legendary creature, Nightmare Insect. Whenever Cathril enters a battlefield, put a flying counter on any creature you control. If a creature card in your graveyard has flying, repeat this process for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. Then put a +1/+1 counter on Cathril for each counter put on a creature this way.
A mouthful.
This has got to be really good.
I think it'll be good. I think it could be good. I mean, it is 5 mana though for a 3/3, which is a little different.
But it's literally gonna be like an 8/8 indestructible, hexproof, lifelinking, death touch, double striker, or whatever, right? Like
keyword soup is interesting
because you get a +1/+1 counter for each of those keywords, right? So this thing will be gigantic if you stocked up your graveyard correctly.
I mean, you're in the colors to do it, right? You're in the colors to do it.
I like that it brings kind of like the Soul Flayer keyword soup play style to Commander because white, black, and green all have cards that care about that. There's like Soul Flayer in black, there's Odric in white, green has Majestic Matriarch. So I like that this kind of brings together that archetype, which is again something we didn't have in Commander before. So I think it is fairly powerful, but I'm mostly excited about it just because it kind of creates this whole new deck style in Commander that just didn't exist before Commander 2020.
Wait, is it big mosquito?
Is infect one of the words?
I don't think you hear infect counters, Richard. I don't think infect is not a mechanic that has a counter yet.
You can just quit grafted exoskeleton. You don't need the keyword. Infect
I need to mutate something onto this to give it infect. I mean, indestructible hexproof seems pretty good.
Please do not bring infect back. Especially mutate infect.
We need a Sigarda counter. Like, you cannot affects your opponent's control cannot cause you to sacrifice. So we need as well. Then this thing is literally unkillable.
Unkillable? Okay.
I mean, really though, you can just like entomb, put like Zatalpa in your graveyard, ramp, and cast this, and it's gonna be pretty insane, right?
I mean, once again, Shadow Spear should be in every deck.
By the way, we never talked about this ability counters, but it gets around a lot of removal, like stuff like Imprison in the Moon and stuff like that. Like the counters on your creature still count, right? So if you had like 10 +1/+1 counters and a trample counter, and your opponent changes your base creature into a 0/1, like you're still good to go. You still have all those abilities.
Yep, Darksteel Mutation, all those things. Yeah, you still got something there.
But then it opens you up to remove target counter effects.
What's the price on Hex Parasite or Vampire Hex Mage?
Don't worry, no one's playing that.
Otrimi, the ever playful, 3 black, green, blue, 6/6 Sultai. Trample. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, return target creature card with mutate from your graveyard to your hand. Mutate 1 black, green, blue.
I love the artwork of this card, but I think this is my least favorite, like least powerful commander at least. This is, in my opinion, the least powerful commander, but the coolest artwork. It's so adorable.
I think that this card suffers from the fact that there's a ton of really powerful looking mutate legends in Ikoria. So when you see this one and it's like, oh, I return a creature with mutate to my hand, it just doesn't look that powerful compared to a lot of the other cards with the same mechanic.
Yeah. And like you're stuck to just specifically Sultai, right? So you don't have, it's not like it's a 5-color commander where you can pull from all the other mutating creatures. It's just, yeah,
and you
I don't
only
know.
return cards with mutate, which is a little awkward. Like maybe, I get that maybe they wanted to refer to mutate again on the card or something, but would it be too busted if you could just return any card, like for the cost and like effect of that? So I think that, I don't know. It definitely seems a little bit watered down power level wise.
Yeah, I wish you could return any card too. Like if it did that, then for 6 mana, sure, right? Like why not? Then we're talking.
It's mutate's only 4 though. You can mutate it
onto a commander, right?
onto another creature.
Yeah.
How does commander damage work? I think if you mutate it onto something, that's still commander damage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then also, so it's like a 4 mana 6/6 trample haste, right? With something like, it's actually not that bad. I think you're sleeping on it a bit, but it's just not flashy.
It's the ability when it connects, it doesn't do anything that great to me. I mean, sure, let's say we mutate it onto something, then okay, I guess that's cool. That gets around commander attacks, right?
Mutate actually does not get around commander attacks. No,
Oh.
that was specifically asked.
Then
so
no,
you
this
still have
card
to
is
pay the
worse.
tax, yeah.
This card's even worse. Because I thought maybe I could always get my mutating on, but if it doesn't,
yeah, they confirmed that ruling, unfortunately.
This card is now just really cute artwork. It has only become cute artwork for me.
All right. I think that brings us to all of our previews. I mean, we have like a ton of previews, so you can check them out on mtgpreviews.com. But we'll have more content coming out this week of like top 10 lists and reviews and things like that, or check out the daily previews, but way too many to cover 2 sets worth in one hour podcast.
I think we should just have a whole episode where Seth and I discuss Sharknado. So I think
I could do an entire podcast on that card, so I'm down. Maybe we'll make a special video of that. On that though, I think that brings us to the end of episode 271 of the Goldfish podcast. So we'll be back next week to talk about the rest of Ikoria and whatever else goes down in the world of Magic. So, Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Spikes Academy for supporting the show. So everyone, have a wonderful week. Enjoy the rest of Ikoria spoiler season, and we'll see you next week.